All right, we are now recording, and I am going to go ahead and hand things off to Laurence Mitchell, who likes to go by Mitch, and he is a director of BAFU.org, which is a nonprofit in Toledo, Ohio. So with that, Mitch, I'll go ahead and hand things off to you.
Well, first off, thank you for giving me this opportunity, Shauna, and thank you all for listening in, because it's kind of an important topic for obviously you and obviously for me. My name is Mitch. I am the director of BAFU, which is short for Be a Friend, It Saves Lives. My credentials are I've been involved with suicide prevention for suicide prevention education probably for a little over 16 years. I've been a professional mediator, conflict resolution person for like 30 years, and extensive fundraising for the past 25, 30 years. I have intimate knowledge regarding suicide, suicide prevention, and suicide survival. I come on very strong sometimes with groups and talking with people, and it's just who I am, just years of mediation. So please, if I'm not here to insult anybody or tell anybody what to do, but sometimes I do slip. And please, at any time that you want to ask a question, or if you want to challenge something, or if you think I'm way off, please say something, because I truly don't have an ego. I don't mind being corrected and learning something new. So anyway, this is, and my email address, I'm sure I have no problem sharing my email address, and please use it if you have any questions or suggestions, or if I could ever be of any help, please don't hesitate to call me or email me. I guess my next slide, unfortunately, I'm not a techie, so Shauna's helping me out with switching my PowerPoint. So I'm ready for the poster. This is one of our posters that we sell, and we sell these as how we make money. You'd be amazed at how many groups out in America, individuals, I should say, individual groups that want to work with suicide prevention, suicide education, and they have no funds at all. So what we've done here is we've copied a few models across the country where you give away incentives, you give away reinforcement, you give away anything that you can to help them tell their story in their community or whoever they want to work with. So we sell these posters. We've been doing it since 2010, and we've had great success. You know, schools, churches, community groups. We like them because they're not offensive. They're very simple. And they can be used for a lot of different items. It's not just suicide prevention. I mean, when you talk about being a friend, we wanted to encapsulate a lot of areas for people to look at it and help them tell their story. So again, this is one of our posters. This is what we use. And if you have any interest in any of them, or if you ever want any of them in the future, please let us know. The next PowerPoint, please. It really is one of the reasons I'm here, and one of the reasons I do extensive. I probably do 2 or 3 presentations or workshops a month. This is my first time actually sitting down here. I walk around the stage. This is, as I told China, this is very difficult for me to just sit here. But I walk around the stage, and we do 2 or 3. And I do these because there's so many people out there with extensive passion that want to know how to communicate or how to help, and they're not quite sure how to do it. So this is why we've gotten involved in our program of Be a Friend, It Saves Lives, and how we're going out there in the community. The things we do know for a fact that I'm sure you guys have gone over in your past is we know there's not enough funds for all of us to do a proper job of mental health. That's with the medical field and the nonprofit field. None of us have enough funds to do the job we'd love to do. We know we can't just rely on healthcare workers. There's just not enough of them. We know there's stigmas, and the stigmas have got to be broken at some point. And we know mindful reinforcement works, and you can see that. I think one of the best examples of mindful reinforcement is the designated driver program that started several years back. I mean, it does work in high schools, and I think if you talk to high school counselors, parents, and teachers, while they do know kids drink and they're not happy about that, they do know that the kids are using the designated driver program. So reinforcing, making programs work through reinforcement does pay off. Next slide, please. our group, one of our specialties is, because I've been involved in it my whole life and some other people have too, is we do a lot of research. We do surveys, we do research where you bring small groups together and you just get them together and you get them to talk. And the reason to do this is I did a lot of work with the Jason Foundation. And the problem with the Jason Foundation is I couldn't get anywhere to share the information. And they have a tremendous nonprofit that do tremendous work. They got a tremendous PowerPoint, tremendous information to share. The problem is finding that audience to share it with. And we struggled with that. And we needed to find an audience and find out a way how to get out there and share this information. Reason being is, when we talked and we interviewed people that were suffering with depression, or they were suffering with other mental health issues, we wanted to know what story they wanted told and why we were having issues, because we thought it was strictly what was going on with the people themselves, and no one wanted to be bothered with it. And as it turns out, in the top 4 answers when you talk to people with issues was wanting conversation. They wanted just to be able to talk. The next thing is they didn't want to be treated like they had some contagious disease. So we thought, well, okay, here's what the people with that are suffering want to address. How do we help them address this? Hence is where we came about with our program, the Be a Friend, It Saves Lives. We needed an audience to share this with, and we needed to be able to share the information that they wanted or they needed to have shared. Next slide, please.
Really quick, Mitch, before we move on to the next slide, I had a question that came in, and individuals are curious, how did you find the individuals to participate in this quote-unquote study where you asked them what they were wanting from their peers? And was this a group of mostly adults, youth, or a mixture of both?
Well, thank you for asking that. What it was is it's an absolute pure mix. We had approximately 200 people. We did military, which was very easy to get because you go down to the Dayton Air Force Base, and they were very generous with setting it up for us to interview and do a couple workshops. We went into high schools, Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, and we talked to adults that offered to involve in conversation that we got from different facilities that work in the mental health field, a couple doctors' offices, places like, can't think of the name here in Toledo, but anyway, we actually went to them and said, would you share this, and would you give us an opportunity to meet with these people and ask them questions? So all these were face-to-face. I hope that answers the question. But it was a very good mix of people.
Awesome. That's really amazing to hear. Thank you. I will change the slide now.
Oh, thank you. A very sensitive thing on my part, and I got to believe it's in a lot of people's part. Again, all the years I've been doing this, I am one of the guys that'll raise my hand in the audience. I find it imperative, and I get disturbed because I don't see it in most of the workshops that I attend just to watch or sometimes even participate in, workshops or presentations where people don't address the topic, which again, I don't think too many people like to be involved in it, but there's not a lot, not a lot, how do we say, our brains are very complicated. I guess I'll just use what the slide is. The brain is very complicated. It's one of the most complicated, if not the most complicated thing in the universe. And as the slide states, you can't be responsible for sometimes with some people, with some brains, that things are going to go awry. And it's just a fact. And I think it's very important, especially for survivors, that they really understand things happen. And if something happens to a loved one, if something happens to somebody that you know, you can't take responsibility for that. And again, I'm always very awkward on how to talk about this topic, but it is a topic that should come up in the beginning of all presentations regarding suicide prevention, that sometimes some people are going to hurt themselves no matter what's going on in their life. As far as healthcare, medication, it could happen. And I do want to get that out there, and I hope I don't insult anybody or step on anybody's toes. But in my opinion, I think this is the number one thing that needs to be talked about in presentations. Next slide, please. And again, it's just kind of the follow-up on that. The one thing I do want to add, if you can't buy into that, I think it, especially for survivors, I think it does hurt your ability to go out there and help people. If you're going to keep internalizing that someone you know or someone you think you could have helped hurt themselves, and you internalize this and you don't let it go, that you really, I mean, some things are out of your control, I think it hurts you from going out there doing the work you'd like to do. And again, not my intention to insult or hurt anybody, but I do think you really need to think about embracing that. The next slide, please. This was an interesting survey that we found. Most of the workshops that I attend, unfortunately, have very few and I say non-medical people. That would include social workers, people involved in healthcare. And one of the things that we wanted to find out was why, and this was before we had Be a Friend actually come about, was why aren't you getting involved? What was really keeping you from getting involved? And again, this would be during lunchtime at one of these workshops or conventions, or we just sit there and talk, get groups together from churches here in Northwest Ohio or in Indiana. And we'd ask people, why aren't you getting involved? You want to get involved. You think you should get involved, but you're not getting involved. And it seems that statistics scare people. They're sitting in an audience and they hear all these statistics about suicide and medications and how people are treated, who doesn't get treated, et cetera, et cetera. And that seemed to be, and again, with the information we've gathered, far and away the number one reason people didn't follow up after attending a workshop of getting involved was statistics scared people from reaching out, especially to people with depression, sadness, you know, the reclusiveness. So we make it a practice, again, in our group, we shy away from most statistics. We don't get into that because our goal really isn't to talk to medical people. You guys know your story. You know what needs to happen. So one of our outlines and game plans is we shy away from statistics as much as we can because of the information we've gathered. If I want average Joe to get involved, if I want a teacher, student, the lady that works at the grocery store, we avoid statistics as much as possible. Next slide.
So a couple comments, one comment and one question that came in, Mitch. This comment from Stephanie Fish, and it was in regards to your last slide in particular, I believe. She mentioned, I appreciate what you said, Mitch. As a survivor, I agree. As much as we aim for 0 suicides, I know it can be preventable. Unfortunately, we will lose some. So I just wanted to let you know that came through.
Well, thank you. Because like I said, it's tough to say that, but it needs to be said. And you and I had that conversation, the importance of it, that just some things happen. But thank you for doing that.
And then I also had a question, and I think this is a great question that came through. And it was asking, understand where you come from in terms of not wanting to inundate people with statistics. But what would you say to someone who does believe statistics are important to always share at presentations? Or do you think there are more appropriate audiences to give statistics to as compared to others?
I personally have 5 different presentations. This is my 6th presentation because I tweaked it for this because of the time and my inability to actually interact with people. I think every audience has to have a different presentation format. I mean, if I was talking to seniors at a high school, I might bring the statistic about how many people hurt themselves, and that could be, doesn't have to necessarily be actual suicide, but hurt themselves because of mental health issues. But again, I wouldn't do it with students. I would talk more about things that they can relate to. They know about car accidents. They do know about some people hurting themselves. They know about actors that have hurt themselves. But you can do that, again, without statistics. I can actually bring up names and situations where someone they can relate to and put their hands on. I just personally shy away from statistics. Me, if you're good at statistics and you're talking to doctors and nurses, I'm sure there is a great need for that. How you would incorporate that to help them do a better job, I don't know. Because again, I would say that if you're already in healthcare, I would hope that you already know your audience and you already know why you're doing what you're doing. I know I'm probably not answering your question exactly right, but I just think you have to pick your own audience and how you want to present and what your goal is. And our goal has never been to give statistics out once we gather information. We just want people to go out there and be a friend. And I don't think statistics would help us in any way. And as we found out, it's a turnoff.
All right, thank you. That's really helpful. And I think your descriptions of the taking into account the different groups that you're reaching out to is really important as well. So thank you.
Okay. I guess that next slide, if you would, please. The one thing, too, we always talk about, we know this isn't easy, and we know not everybody can do it or should do it, but you're trying to reach out and be a friend. It's just something people aren't good at. And with that said, here's where the strong part of me comes in. When someone in the audience says, you know, I just don't like talking to strangers, I don't feel comfortable with strangers, I'm reclusive, or I'm not comfortable, I'm old, I'm this, I'm that, I understand that. And not everybody has that ability to reach out, nor maybe everybody should reach out. But then I would say to them, could you find somebody? I mean, if you can't, as a student, if you feel uncomfortable about the person next to you and you can't reach out, you should be telling that person, well, then find a teacher, find a counselor, talk to your parent. If you're an adult and a coworker is acting funny and you don't feel comfortable talking, I appreciate that. That's fine. I'm not going to give a pep talk to tell you to go do that. But I would say it should be easy for you to at least find somebody. You can leave an anonymous note. I mean, there's so many things you can do in a workplace, in a school, in a community, that if you're really concerned about someone, you can find someone, if not you, to do the conversation or strike up or make a phone call or check into that. And I share that because, again, I know that a lot of people are going to say, it's not for me. And I know it's not easy. I mean, it takes a lot of work. My wife would be the last person to ever talk with anybody. So I can only ask that, if not you, when you're talking to people, let them know that they need to find somebody. I hope that helps. The next slide, please. I don't think, you know, when I go to a lot of these talks also, and again, I've been doing this for 14 years, so I've been going to these, everybody talks about destroying stigmas, but no one ever really gets into the root. I've never found, and again, I don't want to make a blanket statement to hurt or insult anybody, but in my experience, I never find anybody that really dives into what exactly is a stigma and what needs to happen to break a stigma. And it really is a science. And, you know, for those who like the science part, and this is a great topic for seniors that I found in high school and college kids, they love the topic of a stigma. And you'll find that when you're talking to groups like this, talking about how you break stigma, a lot of these kids will salivate to share their thoughts on why there are stigmas, how they came about in growth, and how to get rid of them, and how best to work while you're stuck with these stigmas. So I think stigma needs to be a much bigger conversation, the actual word, not what the stigma is. I mean, we know there's a stigma that you don't want to talk with people, or that if someone has a mental health, you know, they're going to take an axe to you. I understand that that's the kind of things that, unfortunately, people run through their heads. And I think part of our program, why it's successful, is we actually go after the word stigma itself and how you break stigma. And we help people put a picture in their head how to break a stigma. Because if a kid or a person doesn't, I use the word kid, but kid, person, anybody, when you make an actual visual in your head what a stigma is and how to break it, you'll generate more conversation, and I believe you'll have more success. We have found that it's been a huge success attacking the word stigma. The next slide, please. This is, it's another one of those things where it's kind of a sticky part, and you know, and again, I don't want to insult or step on people, but you know, the bottom line is people should not, it shouldn't be hard for people to find help. It just shouldn't be that way. Since our being a friend has gotten started, we know that we have helped people avoid very uncomfortable situations. And I know this because I get at least 10 emails a day, people asking me, here's a situation, what would you do? I do nothing medical at all, never will do anything medical. And if anybody comes medical, I immediately shoot off the phone number for the national hotline. Because that hotline, that's another thing people don't realize. That hotline is not just for people that are about, that are in crisis, but it's also for someone saying, hey, I need to help my brother, I need to help somebody. And I don't think we share that enough. Just one of those things I just threw in there, sorry about that. But sharing these reasons that, where you can discuss solutions, where what keeps people from getting involved is imperative. Because once again, it's like making that picture that we do with Stigma. Someone needs to see in their face, they need to hold it in their hands or read it or see it on a bulletin board or have somebody say it to them. One of the reasons you're not getting involved is because of X, Y, Z, and that it'd be on the other slide. And most of America suffers this way. And I think that helps people when they know they're not in the minority, that they don't want to step up and help. I think it's important that they know they're actually in the majority. And here's some of the reasons you won't step up and help. And maybe through small groups, presentations, workshops, that could be just one topic for the night. If we could go to the next slide there. I have, I think, 3 or 4 slides that discuss why people don't get involved. And one of them here is that distance between a comfort zone and conversation. How do you address that? And again, that in itself, all by itself, regarding suicide prevention or other mental health issues, can be a topic, can be something you can talk about. And again, I have found that kids love talking about what that means to be distant and being comfortable. And here we go, we talk about solutions. People don't realize how much power they have just by saying, hi, my name is, or would you like to talk? You seem bothered, can I help? I mean, these are just ones that I've said, but there are so many of them out there that a whole evening could be spent in groups just discussing solutions on, well, how can I help you become a better talker? I mean, you have these speech classes in school, and that's it. You literally stand up in class and you give a speech. So, I mean, it's that repetition, it's practicing. Next slide, please.
Really quick, Mitch, a question came on, and it's not necessarily about a particular slide, but about a concept you were talking about, which was the concept you were talking about regarding not being a medical professional, knowing when to refer someone, but just, yourself being there to have a conversation with someone. And the question was, what recommendations would you have for those of us who are going out and doing trainings in our community on suicide prevention and asking people to be gatekeepers to help them distinguish between their role and the role of a medical professional? Do you have any recommendations to explain their role versus when to make that referral more clear for those who are going out and doing those trainings? Truly, Sean, you would probably be able to answer that a little better than I, because you and I were talking. As far as my rules go, and what I always share with people, because I do get asked that question, if I'm answering this right, how does average Joe determine when you need to call an ambulance or help someone to a doctor's office? That's something that is, God, no matter how I answer it, it'll be wrong probably. I'm more aggressive, as I mentioned before. If I'm talking to somebody and they're just moving their head around, and you can just see they're despondent, I will absolutely offer, can I drive you home? Can I take you to the doctor? I listen to that little voice a lot. I truly have found in my communications with everybody, and this is across the 50 states, very few of the people that have ever contacted me have said, well, I took this person to the hospital. I mean, most of the things I always hear about is a good conversation they had, or they know that their friend is now talking to the pastor of the church, or their good friend is now seeing a counselor. I haven't heard about anybody with emergency stuff that horrible emergency situations.
But I would always tell somebody that little voice in your belly that tells you, run, get away from that guy, he's no good for you, blah, 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 is that same little voice that's going to tell you, hey, this person really does need help, or this person's not right. Maybe I need to call 911. Maybe I need to sit here a lot longer and wait till, you know, one of their family members pick them up. I just don't have the exact answer because I just don't see it as a science. I just see you should know that little voice will tell you, and quite frankly, a football coach or any kind of a coach will tell you, when in doubt, be proactive. I mean, that one I can guarantee on that one. If you're really wishy-washy about, oh, do I do it, do I not do it, then you probably should take action. Again, long answer. I'm sorry about that. I don't know if that helps or not.
No, I think that's a good answer. And I think it's just nice to hear the demonstration of how that kind of common question that does get asked during trainings can be addressed. So I think that's helpful. And just to add a little bit on to what you said too, I think that many times where I try to draw the line as well too is, do I feel this person is at risk of harming themselves or someone else? If I feel like that's not the case, then I can probably help connect them with some resources and just be there for them. Or if I feel like they're at imminent risk, then I'm going to take some additional steps. So that's kind of been the guiding line that I always use as well, which I feel like is very similar to yours. So,
yeah.
All right, I'll change the slide for you.
Yeah. This was the number 2 that we have found over the years, and we had a couple pretty smart guys from Stanford, by the way, help put this list of 4 items together. This was the second issue that kept people away was, you know, you can convince yourself someone else is going to help this person. Again, this is a great topic that people love to talk about. Again, especially kids, because they all go through this. Well, someone else will pick up the slack or someone else will do this. And you'll find that this particular question I find interesting. You see this in sports. When someone gives an example of someone's going to pick up the slack or someone else is going to reach out and help that person, you'll see somebody in sports will always bring that up too and say, hey, you know, we say that in sports, you know, someone else is going to pick up the slack while I take a little time off. Oh, no, I got the wrong slide I was discussing. I'm sorry. This is the reaching out. My bad. That was the other question. I had the wrong slide in my pile. This is that medical part, which I think we just discussed. If people are asking you medical questions, I would never answer a medical question. I would only try to seek help and help them find help. I stay away from all medical situations because you just never know. Again, I apologize. I did the wrong slide on that one. Next slide, please. Your role. This is another great topic to have with people. People love to talk. People love to say what they think their role is in society. Some of their opinions will absolutely flabbergast you. You'll be very hurt because they'll make it sound like, you know, life is all about them, and you're going to have those conversations. Other people, you'll just be ecstatic to hear how they want to get involved in the community, and they just don't know how to get involved or what their solution is and what role they should play in the community. This, again, could be a topic all by itself if you can get into a church or a school or start working with people on you know, you're going to meet monthly or however you're going to do it. This is a great, great topic, what your role should be. I share this one part about my parents, and I was raised with this. You really have to embrace, and this is just something that has 2 rules. The first rule is people only know what they know, and the second rule is you can't change that. So to get mad at somebody or angry at somebody because they don't know, just because they're an adult doesn't mean they really know what their role should be or how easy it is to get involved in the community. You really can't get mad at them, especially with kids and students. People only know what they know, and if you embrace that and you work from that line, you'll find that your conversations and your helping people will be much more enjoyable and probably much more successful. The next slide. Denial. This was the one I talked your ear off about. Sorry about that. I had the wrong one. Denial. that that someone could hurt themselves and get in, you know. Again, another topic could be all by itself, but this is another one of those cases where typical people, we will absolutely, if we see a situation, it's like the other day, a gentleman and myself, we got out of our cars because this person couldn't get over the curb because of the snow we have here in Ice and Toledo, and they don't clean those little walks that get you to the bus stop. And the people in the cars that were well in front of us should have gotten out, in my opinion, but they didn't for whatever reason. I can't get mad at them. But the people not taking action is for, they just deny that this guy's not, you know, they deny that this guy needs help. So they sit in their car, they deny this guy needs help, they'll figure it out, and they keep driving. And I think you're going to find that in just about everything. It's very easy to sit there and say, there's no way this person, he's a football hero, he's going to hurt himself. That cheerleader's not going to hurt herself. My child is not going to hurt themselves. It's very easy to deny stuff because it fits how we think. And this, again, is a huge, great area if you want to have topics with people. If you want to talk about suicide prevention, this is a great item to talk about because you don't know who's going to have an accident or when something's going to happen or when people need help. So I like this one also as a topic. Next slide, please. You find too many people, obviously mental illnesses are invisible to most people. They say, well, you don't see it. We do a lot of work to tell people that's not true. They're not invisible. Mental health issues are not invisible. They're in plain sight. People losing a job, that's in plain sight. People drinking, that's in plain sight. Those are mental health issues. Somebody skipping school, somebody who's handed away all their personal items, those are visible. So one of the stigmas that we work on when we have a group together is we do not let anybody try to sell us or try to tell us, I didn't see it. You know, mental health is invisible. I didn't know that, you know, Ruth had all these issues. There are things going on in her life and that's not invisible. It's like that Anthony Bourdain's death, that's not invisible. Kate Spade death is not invisible. A parent losing a child is not invisible. You know that this has happened. So you know that when somebody loses a child, there's going to be issues. So it's just one of those topics we work on. We do not let people talk about mental health being invisible. Next slide, please.
And I think this is a great comment that just came in, Mitch, as well. Someone was pointing out that this slide with the content that you have here in terms of signs of suicide risk, signs of poor mental health are not invisible, but also coupling that with the earlier discussion you had with the knowledge that we can't be responsible for what we don't know. We have to be educated on what these signs and things like that are. I think that's a really great point that this person just made, just making sure that when we address these topics, bridging them together, because they aren't invisible, but we do have to have education on what those warning signs are. And so we also don't want to make people feel guilty for something they might have missed because they didn't have that education early on. So I think that's a great point that person brought.
Oh, absolutely, and thank you. Because like I said, I still think it's the #1 topic to have, and it should be the opening, no matter where you're at in the conference, in any type of mental health. You cannot take that responsibility on. It just doesn't work, and it's not fair, and it's not correct. So yeah, thank you for that. My last thing here is you don't have to be in the medical world, and this is something else that we really, really push to go out there and help people. And you just have to appreciate that. And I share this only because two quick stories. I for the past 2 years, and I shared it with Shauna because a few months ago, one of the radio stations, TV stations, finally said, mentioned a name of this person in our city had died of suicide. And I've been after the TV stations and 3 of the radio stations in Toledo, Ohio for a couple of years now that they kept using the word committed. And it drove me nuts using the word committed. And I would, once a month, I would take donuts or bagels or something with a little note, please don't use the word committed. This is how you should be talking. Words matter. And it was, to me, it was a little victory. Now, I'm not in the healthcare industry. To them, who am I to be knocking on their door telling them they're using the wrong word? But it was a little victory for me, and I was very happy about that. And I only share that because you don't have to be a licensed social worker or a doctor or a nurse to be able to go out there and make a difference, or be able to give a talk to a group at a church, at work, at school. I mean, you can be anybody if you just pick something that you want to talk about reaching out to help people, and make it a habit. Because the second story I want to share before I say I'm done is, not too many years ago in Toledo, again, we had a young boy who hit a tree and he was drunk. And it was all decided that he died because he was drunk driving and he drove too fast. But several weeks after that, I was having conversations with his friends, and every one of them would say he was having a lot of issues. He was very sad. And no one knew that they should do something, which goes back to those two slides that we've talked about. No one knew that they could or should have maybe said something or done something that their good friend was having issues, because I could argue, and again, I don't want to insult or step on toes, but I could argue that maybe it wasn't drunk driving, that maybe he decided at that last minute to turn his car into the tree. I don't know anything, and I'm not wanting to start rumors, but all I'm getting at is none of us know anything. So when you're talking about suicide prevention, I think it's a bigger umbrella that if we just school, when you go and you talk to groups about suicide prevention, if someone's looking for, they're hunting, they're looking for a deer, and you draw a picture, and this is what a deer looks like, and it has antlers, and two female deer walk by, and they don't shoot them, and you say, why didn't you shoot them? You said, well, it doesn't look like that. So we didn't shoot him. He said, but those were deer, but you didn't tell me that. You drew a picture of a deer with these antlers. We don't know you don't know when someone's going to hurt themselves. But what we do know is that maybe we could talk to people about being a friend, reaching out to someone who's just behaving different. And I think we need to be more careful. And anyway, this is a posture we've taken. We do not go into places. We do not just look for, hey, we're looking for suicide prevention. We're looking first, you got to be a friend, you got to start looking out for one another. And oh, by the way, these things can happen when someone gets too depressed. I hope I explain myself fairly and well on that, but I just think in today's age, just saying suicide prevention, I want to come to your church or your school and talk, I think you're doing yourself a disservice, because there are more things out there that you can help people with using the same word. And I guess that's about it. I know that, Shauna, you had a couple questions, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So we wanted to kind of end the presentation with today was the opportunity to get some information from Mitch on the steps he's taken to really get his presentation, which would be what we would consider a type of gatekeeper presentation, gatekeeper training out to his different community sectors. And then I'm going to end completely by just giving a review of how you can find some applicable gatekeeper training in your community. Before we do that, there are a few questions here that I prepped Mitch with, and I'm excited to hear his thoughts. One of them was, we wanted to know, what has been your most effective strategies or pitches for getting organizations and communities to invite you to present on BAFU or just on suicide prevention?
Yeah, and thank you. As I told Shauna, her questions will help me tell a better story here today. My education in the beginning, working with the Jason Foundation, and it was a very good education. And the education wasn't just in suicide prevention. The education was, why aren't we able to get into places? Hence, you start talking to people, you start doing your homework, you start doing these surveys, and we found rebranding. We did not, as I just talked about in the last slide, I don't go to somebody and say, I want to talk about suicide prevention. I say, we want to talk about looking out for one another. And, oh, by the way, as you're talking, here are things that when someone is going through a heartache, they're going through sadness, depression, etc., these are things that can happen. And so our success and what's really helped us take off, and like I said, I 3 or 4 presentations a week, and I've been in Chicago, Indianapolis. We tell our story. We've rebranded ourselves as we want to teach people to start looking out for one another. And oh, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot that I had muted myself. So the next question that we had for Mitch, and which I'm also putting in the chat box here, was what type of follow-up, if any, have you given to participants in your BAFU presentations after they are over?
This we're really proud of. I'll get at least, this is me personally, not some of the other people. I'm assuming they'll get the same amount. I'll get at least 10 emails a day. I give out my personal email. I get at least 10 emails a day where someone will say, hey, I had this situation, what would you do? Or, hey, would you come and talk? Or I'd like to talk to my church group. How should I do this, or what should I do? My follow-up has always been I make sure I'm very easy to get a hold of. Otherwise, I've been a failure. I mean, just talking to a group, and again, I don't want to insult anybody, but when you think about it, if you just talk to a group and you hand out a few business cards, or you hand out the little flyers that say, here's all the warning signs about suicide prevention, which is important stuff, and then you go home, how many of the people in there hold on to that stuff, or how many of the people are actually going to do anything? Because there's no follow-up. There's none of that reinforcement that we talked about, and that's why we do the posters, always giving them away, always selling them. I make sure I'm very accessible. Nothing medical. Anybody asks me a medical question, I just immediately get back with them. Here's the phone number, call it. But I can absolutely give advice on how to talk to the pastor or teacher or principal. I hope that answers the question.
I am apparently muting myself again. What recommendations do you give to Suicide Prevention Coalition members actively promoting similar suicide prevention messages to help them more effectively reach youth versus adult populations? Are there different strategies that they need to take for those 2 different groups?
Again, first off, always feel free to email me. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and if you're having issues, I'd love to share what we do. We're not selling any packages. Everything we do is free. The posters we sell obviously allow us to give away free posters. I think you need to think about branding. First off, yes, what really is your goal? Is your goal just to talk about suicide prevention, or is your goal to get in front of a group that you can make an impact on? And even if for a whole year you're only working with this one group of seniors or one group of kids in 6th grade, I think you have to pick out something that you want to do that you can hold in your hands and say, okay, this is my objective. I want to talk to this group about suicide prevention. How do I do that? And, some places, they're not going to believe you coming in there saying it. I have found that very few people want you to come in and talk about suicide prevention. But if you go in there maybe with a different angle about what you want to talk about, looking out for one another, because again, that overlaps with alcohol drinking, drugs, bad behavior. I mean, there's so many things that opens the door for you to incorporate. I just think you need to really consider opening, to new ideas and new branding, if indeed your goal really is to get in front of groups and talk. You just have to really be receptive that maybe it's time to rebrand how I talk, how I present what I want to do. And again, maybe show them some of your topics. Why do people not get involved? I mean, those are great topics, and no one can argue that wouldn't be a great topic for a group of seniors one day. I hope that helps.
Yeah, absolutely. That is very helpful. And I wanted to let everyone know here, if you have any more questions that are burning in the back of your mind, feel free to type them or to raise your hand and ask them. I'm going to be doing a couple slides here very quickly because I don't want us to go all the way till 1 if possible. But what these next slides are going to cover is just a review of what gatekeeper trainings are available in Ohio, as well as a wonderful resource tool that you can use to find a gatekeeper training that can really help you target a particular population if you're currently searching for one. So what this current slide here is just an overview of the gatekeeper trainings that we at the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation are currently promoting. I particularly wanted to highlight these because with these trainings, you have access to some free or extremely low-cost gatekeeper trainings that you could take advantage of that are evidence-based in the state of Ohio right now. So I'll just quickly review these. You're going to see that Cognito is mentioned a lot here on this PowerPoint slide. We have Cognito for K-12. And when we say K-12, we are talking about the full gamut of elementary school, middle school, and high school. What these simulations do are they are online gatekeeper trainings that anyone can take part in who is a school staff or a teacher or a school faculty member, and it educates them on what the warning signs of suicide are and actually gives them practice having conversations with a youth from those different age groups that they are concerned about. So if I'm a school staff, for example, and I take part in the Cognito K-12 simulation, I can choose to do one focus on elementary school youth and practice having a conversation with an elementary school youth, or I can take one for the high school youth and practice having a conversation with high school youth. And that can be really useful as you're learning or wanting to promote a gatekeeper training for your school systems to be able to say, hey, we have a training that can pinpoint exactly what you need for an elementary school or exactly what you need for a high school or a middle school. What I wanted to emphasize about this one is that the Cognito simulations are free for individuals to promote within their schools and for their school systems to use, as long as you join the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation's learning community of practices. We have these a couple times a year, and right now we do have registration open for our winter spring learning co-op, which will coincide with our current school semester. The co-op is made up of 3 online webinars where you get feedback and pointers for how to disseminate these gatekeeper trainings within the school systems. So if this is something you think your local schools would be interested in, or you represent a local school, I would encourage you to check it out. The deadline to register for our learning co-op for this current semester is on this coming Friday. So it is coming up, not a long application, but we're really trying to find schools who are really committed to system-wide dissemination, not just having 1 or 2 people in their school system take part in the trainings. Below the K-12 one, we have Cognito Together Strong. It is like Cognito for K-12 in that it has simulations. You get to practice having conversations on screen with someone you're worried about. But in these simulations, it is focused on military members and the military population. So the characters you're talking to in those simulations, getting practice having conversations like what Mitch was discussing, are military members represent real reactions that military members in the real world would give based on how you talk and interact. Together Strong is a phone app, and it does have unlimited access to anyone in Ohio. To search for it, look up Together Strong in the Google Play or App Store, and anyone can download it. So it can be a great thing for you to really promote to your military groups in your counties. Cognito Friend to Friend is our simulation that is also a phone app, but it specifically targets teenagers. So rather than, for example, with the K through 12 suite, where it's for school staff who interact with teenagers, Friend to Friend is for the teenagers themselves. So if I'm taking part in Cognito, I'm a friend to friend, I'm going to be ideally between the ages of 13 and 18, and it's going to give me information on what mental health is, because many of our teenagers, unfortunately, do not get that education. It's going to teach them how to talk with a friend they're worried about, and at the end of the day, how to know when they need to tell a trusted adult if they're worried about that friend. This also has unlimited access in the state of Ohio right now, so you can promote this to any teenagers in your community to have them download Friend to Friend through the Google Play or the Apple App Store. So a great resource as well. So I'm going to switch off of Cognito now. I did want to highlight that we do have initiatives going on in the state of Ohio right now with Question, Persuade, Refer, or QPR for short, as well as Mental Health First Aid. Many of you are probably familiar with these, as they are very large national gatekeeper trainings. In Ohio, we have over 50 QPR instructors who are now listed as part of the QPR affiliates group. And if you're interested in bringing a QPR training into your community because you don't yet have a QPR instructor in your community, I want to encourage you to use this link that is provided here because it provides you with a list of Ohio's QPR affiliates who are registered QPR instructors. The beautiful thing about QPR is it can be done with any population. It's been done with teenagers all the way to adults. And individuals who are the instructors for QPR went through a training to be able to do that. They also can do a training that is only an hour in length, or it can go all the way up to 3 hours in length. So there's some flexibility there. The last one that I wanted to mention is mental health first aid. Now with mental health first aid, I'm going to emphasize that we at the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation right now are working with a group of veteran and active duty service member mental health first aid instructors who can offer mental health first aid trainings in your communities targeted at the military population. We're able to do this through a SAMHSA mental health awareness training grant currently. So that is a neat opportunity we have. If you're interested in doing more trainings for your military groups in your counties or in a specific organization, feel free to reach out to me and I'm happy to connect you with some mental health first aid instructors that can speak as a veteran or as a service member. But beyond that, I also wanted to emphasize that there are many local alcohol, drug, and mental health service boards that are doing their own mental health first aid trainings. So if you ever are looking for a mental health first aid training instructor, feel free to use our upcoming calendar of events to see what ones are scheduled. But also you can reach out to me to be connected with an instructor in a different area. We have a contractor who knows all of the mental health first aid instructors across the state, and he's happy to help you make connections when you need an instructor to come to your community. So I just wanted to emphasize these gatekeeper trainings that are out there that you very likely don't have to pay anything to be able to access or use. You can just bring in an instructor, bring in the training, help promote it, and you can really ensure that you have an evidence-based program that's really great and that coincides well with your message on suicide prevention. The last thing that I wanted to emphasize with this final slide is a resource that has been provided by the Suicide Prevention Resource Center, or SPRC for short. The Suicide Prevention Resource Center has put together what they call a gatekeeper training matrix, or you can call it a comparison table. And I think it's a wonderful resource that they created. They update it every other year. So it was last updated in the fall of 2018. And what this matrix does is provide an overview of all of the evidence-based gatekeeper trainings that are out there in the nation right now. And what's beautiful about it is that if you think about this former PowerPoint slide, that's a limited number of gatekeeper trainings that OSPF is promoting right now. And I wanted to emphasize them because they can give you a free way to provide education on suicide prevention. But some of those trainings that we're promoting might not be the perfect fit for the population that you're reaching out to. Mitch talked a lot in his presentation about making sure that you're considering who your audience is. And if those don't fit, maybe you want to find another gatekeeper training that you can use and that you can consider how it would fit in well with these messaging strategies that Mitch has given you today in your efforts to educate people on how to support one another and make referrals. So this gatekeeper training matrix can be accessed at this link up at the top here. You don't have to have a password or anything. You just click on the link and you can go to this matrix. And it literally has every evidence-based gatekeeper training available right now. It provides you with information on what each gatekeeper training's objectives are, whether or not the objective is just to increase referrals, whether or not there's an objective on making sure individuals understand mental health, whether it's just focused on suicide risk or all of mental health. It gives you information on whether or not the gatekeeper training is designed for certain audiences. Some gatekeeper trainings are designed to be very general, like QPR, and applicable to different groups, and you use your own messaging to do that. Others are really designed to be very focused. Ask, Care, Score, or ACE is a great example of that, where it was developed specifically for the military, so that you know who the target populations of the different gatekeeper trainings are. It also gives you information on what the ideal format of the gatekeeper training is, as well as what the core content and setup is. So for example, it will let you know the normal amount of time it takes to do a training. You can see that this one at the top here is a 2-day training, which is very long. Well, this one down here only takes an hour and a half. It lets you know the amount of time you need to implement a gatekeeper training. It lets you know what kind of materials come with it. If, for example, there's a manual or a booklet, whether or not there's online components, as well as whether or not plays and other activities like that. And then the last thing that really emphasizes is where you can go to get the materials you need to actually implement that gatekeeper training, to get people trained as instructors for that gatekeeper training, or just to be able to get the materials that will enable you to go and use it. Some of these gatekeeper trainings that they have on here are completely free. People can just access the content and use it. Some actually require you to pay a little bit before you can do the trainings. But all that information can be accessed through this resource. So the last thing I wanted to emphasize on this before I move on is just that, again, you can access this on Dropbox. I just did a screenshot of the first 2 rows from the gatekeeper training matrix, but they have rows for every single gatekeeper training all the way down to Z. It starts with A. And if you're trying to decide what training is the best for your community right now, don't overlook the ability of using this gatekeeper training matrix to help you make some good decisions for the training that's going to be the best for your community. So, wrap up now as we're just about to run out of time. I wanted to let you all know that we have a wonderful ability right now with Mitch to send you all some posters. He showed us those posters at the very beginning of the PowerPoint presentation. I'll go back to that quickly. This is an example of one of his posters. He also has some different versions out there. We at the Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation are going to cover the cost of some of these posters being sent to those of you who are participants on today's webinar. In order for us to do that, though, if you're interested in receiving some of those posters that you could put in your local organization or community, we will need you to go to this SurveyMonkey link, which you'll receive with a copy of the PowerPoint slides, and provide us with your preferred mailing address. When you registered for the webinar, you did not provide an address, so if you would like to receive a poster, fill out this link and we will have Mitch mail you a poster at no cost that you could put in your own community. You might be able to get more than one. It just depends on how many people end up saying they would like to receive some copies. So with that being said, know that's there, and I hope that some of you will take us up on this offer because it's a great way to get some conversation started on mental health and suicide prevention in your communities. All right. As a note, you will receive a copy of today's slides as well as the webinar recording, so no worries there. That's always a question I get. And that's all that we have for you today. We thank you for joining us. Mitch, thank you so much for joining us today. It was great feedback for how people can really put together their gatekeeper training messages. Anything you would like to add before we leave?
No, thank you for allowing me to do that, because I know sometimes being a little different is uncomfortable in a lot of situations, but I think sometimes it's a good thing to go through. So thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you. Thank everyone for joining us, and have a wonderful afternoon.